And it was really achingly sad as well, because I still really believed in our marriage, but I just couldn't reach for it. I couldn't grasp it or hold on to what we'd had in the beginning. It was just slipping through my fingers, and I just was powerless to get anything back. I just couldn't do it.
Real women, real marriage turnarounds. This is the Empowered Wife Podcast. My guest Roz was trying desperately to get back to the good old days when she and her husband were so in love, but nothing was working. But then Roz did a duct tape experiment, and that was the beginning of a new peaceful chapter full of playfulness and passion. She's going to tell us how she did it so you can do it too. Roz, welcome to the Empowered Wife Podcast. I'm excited to have you here.
Thank you so much, Laura. It's amazing to be here. I'm amazed to be here. So it's wonderful. Thank you.
Awesome. This is a moment you've dreamed of, it sounds like.
Yes, I have.
Yeah. Fantastic. All right. Well, I would love to hear what it was that drew you to your husband in the beginning.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, I'm going to go back even further than that, because I've got a sort of couple of bits about myself which really informed how I was showing up really in the past. And it sort of gives a bit of context for when it all went pear-shaped. So I'm the eldest of 3 sisters. And when I was a teenager, I remember saying to my dad, "I'm so glad you didn't have a son, otherwise you'd treat us differently." So that was my viewpoint on life, really. And I wasn't surrounded by connected, happy marriages either growing up. And so I was really independent, and I loved my independence. And I was very happily single in my 20s. And I loved being myself, doing things on my own terms, making my own way in the world. And I was dynamic and sociable, lots of friends, loyal and fun. And I wasn't desperate to get married. But deep down, I believed in marriage very much, sort of from afar, in a kind of idealized sort of way. And I originally met my husband at university, and we'd been friends for years. And he met my dynamism with his own. And we both loved sailing, and we had that in common. And we were a match made in heaven. And our friendship blossomed, and I fell head over heels for him. And we got married. And the first 4 years of our marriage, we had a wonderful connection. And we planned this round-the-world sailing voyage. And we sailed around the world, just the 2 of us. And we were no more than 40 feet away from each other for 3 years. A lot of teamwork, crossing Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, could be out of sight of land for 3 weeks at a time. One of us on watch, one of us asleep. And we saw amazing things and met wonderful people in so many extraordinary countries. It was really fabulous. Wow. And then we got back. And we started everything from scratch, careers, home. And my husband's naturally an entrepreneur, so he began to build his businesses. And I began editing and writing, and we were fortunate enough to start a family. And I'd like to say, and they all lived happily ever after, the end, shortest podcast ever, with no challenges to speak of. But I can't really say that.
I don't think you could be on the podcast. that was
no. Yeah.
But things start off very nicely, it sounds like.
Yeah, no, they did. It was a beautiful connection. It was really wonderful. We were so together. But it did descend in a really slow-mo way into the bad old days. And yeah, so I had my first son. And there was the shock of the horizon shrinking down from worldwide to a minuscule tiny baby in front of me. And all at once I saw the awe and the restrictions of that. And I wanted to be a great mum. And so I sank so much energy into my baby, baby-friendly routine, breastfeeding, nice night feeds, right books, right toys, right food. And I was happy to do everything else, cooking, cleaning, laundry, appointments. And I had this entrepreneurial husband, so I made sure we kept out of the way and I handled everything. We both worked from home, and I was editing technical sailing books as well. And I still managed to be fun and dynamic. And then we went on to have our second son, and I continued to do everything. And I made sure my husband had space to develop his career. And at a month old, I had my new baby in a routine, and I was proofreading a new book edition. And my husband was working from home and working very hard. On Christmas Eve, he was still working at 10 p.m. And I was beyond helpful. I did everything. I wanted to make sure my husband's load was as light as possible, and I knew how to carry a load. And we did have some fun times. We bought our next sailing boat and we sailed across the channel with our small children. We put them to bed and sailed overnight, a 12-hour crossing in the dark, pretty much without sleeping. And the next day they wanted the beach and we just wanted to sleep.
Yeah.
So then I was early stage pregnant with my third child, and I was collecting a very large, heavy mirror from the shops. I went alone. I went to the loading bay and hefted the mirror into the back of my car. And when I got home, I hefted the mirror out of the car and wrestled it into the house. I was so proud of my efforts. I felt so strong and competent and invincible. Later that evening, I had a miscarriage. Now, I'm not saying there was an absolute causal link, but I do recognise that lifting that mirror as a pregnant woman was extremely unwise. But I didn't really pause to reflect on my loss. I didn't know the meaning of the word vulnerability. I'm not sure I even cried. I had a family do I was attending a week later, and I instructed my parents and my sisters not to mention my miscarriage. I told them to act as if nothing had happened, and they did what I said. Yeah, I know. Looking back at it, it's So it's really, really sad. And my lovely mother had come down to support me after the miscarriage, and my best friend rang up to see how I was, and my mother said to her, "Yes, well, we're just having a cup of tea and pushing on through." So that was the landscape, and I moved on, really, without a great deal of pause.
Oh, gosh, heartbreaking, Roz. That sounds sad. And I also just hear some guilt in there, too, about the mirror, moving the mirror. Like, maybe I did this. And, well, it just sounds devastating.
Yeah, and it is really, it is really sad. And you're quite right. I did recognise that. I don't think I owned up to it to myself at the time. All this moving on, just get on with it, push on through. But reflecting back on it, it was so unwise, a very, very foolish thing to do. Yeah.
You didn't know.
No, I didn't know. Yeah, and I was me at the time. Yeah. And we were really fortunate to go on to have a third son, and that was fantastic. And I was editing books, and I was by now learning web development and setting up that business, and I was determined and I was focused. I couldn't stand time wasters. I was very, very busy. I was going. And now there wasn't much time for fun with my husband in our house. Not much time at all. So I was determined to be a great mum, and I showered my kids with maternal energy. But unfortunately, the rest of the time, I brought efficiency, deadlines, and task lists into the home, and my husband was the unsuspecting recipient. I know so many people can relate to. Sorry,
the task list. You're saying he was the recipient. Yeah, there was lots of things to do. I mean, there are, right, when you have 3 littles. Yeah,
there are. And I'm sure lots of people will recognize this whole schedule thing. So I would be up before 7 to 9, get the family up and out, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. working at my desk, 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. ferrying kids around to music, football, youth clubs, cadets. And then Saturday, 3 kids all in different football teams. Did I include my husband in any of this? No. So I'd palm the eldest off with another parent, drive the second to a match, then drive the third to his match, watch the match, go back and collect the second kid, go to the other parent's house to pick up the first kid. Same with after school music classes, etc., etc., etc. You get the picture.
Wow. A lot of chauffeuring. And he wasn't involved. Your husband wasn't involved in any of that.
No, and then I fitted all the household stuff around that, and I pushed on, and I didn't want to disturb my husband and his work. I was just being a good wife and mum, and I was doing what I needed to do to make that happen. Wow. And me and my friend used to cackle that we were the control freaks. We just used to cackle about it, like it was a badge of honor or something like that. It was a sort of steady state. Yeah, it just was. There was nothing we could do about it. That's just what we were, and we cackled about it.
It's the only way to manage. It's the only way to get through life. Yeah, make sure and the children are raised properly and get everything done. Yeah.
And I consider myself reasonably intelligent, but I had no idea what I was doing. Because as far as I was concerned, I slept pretty well. I had plenty of energy and I pushed on through till midnight. And then I got up before 7 and did it all again and again and again. And I took real care to do everything well. And let's not forget, I thought I was being a good wife too, because I was doing everything and keeping the kids out of the way so that my husband could concentrate on his career. Yeah. And it wasn't all disastrous because we continued to have some wonderful adventures through all of this. We took our 3 boys out of school when the eldest was 11 and sailed across the Mediterranean for 6 months, visiting all sorts of islands. And it was just a fabulous life experience for them and a really wonderful close family time for us all. But when we got back, my husband continued to miss out on plenty of things. I went to all the kids' concerts because I adore music and I loved the music they were playing. Not my husband's sort of thing, I wrongly thought. And anyway, I assumed he was too busy to go. So I was full-time curating his life at this point.
So
as a
tell me
result,
how that went a little bit. Like you would say, I'm taking the boys to the concerts. You don't need to go. Or how would that go?
I just said, said, yeah, we've got these concerts coming up. I've got this booked in, and just didn't. I mean, I don't think he even got any kind of intuition about him coming as well, because I was so all over it. I was the classical musician of the household, so it was just natural that I'd be doing, and I reinforced that view. So there really wasn't any room for him to have any kind of, well, by the way, I'd quite like to come too, and he'd just sort of get on with his work, and that was just how it was. Yeah. So not much debate.
He knew that was your desire, basically, to just have it to yourself.
Yeah.
It sounds like. Okay.
Yes. Not that it was ever expressed as a desire, yes, but yes.
No.
Yeah. But yeah, with all of it, this whole tasky thing and all that vibe, that just the softness and femininity just went out of the window because I had no time for that. And I had no idea just how much damage I was doing to our marriage. And my husband just got the scraps and leftovers. And I became more and more depleted. And I didn't notice the erosion for a while, but slowly but surely, our intimacy and connection wore away and became really threadbare, like a thin and faded rug. We were just sort of clinging on. Our children were the glue, and we were distant and disconnected. And as a result, long-term Cold Wars started, which increased in regularity between us. So peace, playfulness, and passion went out of the window. Lots is going out of the window at this point. And our interactions.
So Cold War, so just kind of functional conversation, but nothing else? Is that how it was? Just, I'm going here, I'll be back at that time, dinner's on the stove, that kind of thing. So
it was just...
Yeah. And what kinds of things was the tension about?
Yeah. So, well, it was pretty cold because we had just it was conversations about bringing up children, work issues, house maintenance, what events to attend, but there was nothing else going on. There was no room for just a gentle conversation about something. It was just all quite tense, and it was, it was very much, this needs to get done in this time frame. I'm off I go, this, that, the other. We're all here, there, and everywhere. So it was just very, very functional and very, very transactional. And it really did have an effect on my husband because he ended up telling me on more than one occasion that I was really miserable, always in a bad mood and grumpy. And it really frustrated and saddened me because the thing was, I had lots of friends outside our home and I was really happy with them. And when we went to family occasions, I was really happy there, and chatting to other mums at the school gate, happy there. But my husband just seemed irritated with me persistently. And I got to the point where I looked for signs of that, this kind of eggshell maneuver. I was looking for signs, his pursed lips, just down to his lips. And when he did that, I automatically assumed I'd done something wrong. And I wanted to be accountable because that's just how I am. I just am. So I would say a kind of general sorry before the day ended because that's what I thought I should do. But I had no idea what I was saying sorry about. And it never restored the peace quickly. So it didn't really work.
It's not really accountability in a way. It was just trying to make things nice.
Yes.
It sounds like trying to make sure that he would be a little more cheerful or
just
relaxed?
get back
So
to
you
more
weren't,
relaxed.
there wasn't really, so there was no recurring point of conflict, it sounds like. Is that right?
No, it's to do with the such a beautiful connection just becoming more and more and more and more distant, just more and more distant. So, just that there was it was like an echo chamber. We just weren't really connected either physically, him in his office, me in mine, or me doing stuff with the kids, or, there was no real point of connection anymore. There was just so much space between us. And with this sorry thing, I had resentment. I really resented the fact that he never, ever said sorry first. And nor did he really, yeah. And he didn't say sorry at
Yeah.
all. I mean, maybe once a decade, perhaps, that's how it was.
What
And
did you
he
wish
would call me. Yeah,
what
sorry.
did you wish you would say sorry for?
I don't know, actually. I just know it as a general landscape. There were things where I was frustrated, and I just wished that it wouldn't always be up to me to make the first move. And it was just like, if I was thinking that's so unfair. What you said, that's really unfair, and you've really hurt me. Just in my head, I would be doing that, but there's no way he was going to say sorry about it. So then I sort of thought, well, I'm going to need to say sorry because I don't want this to go on. I want to get, as you said, I want to get it back to what it was. But he would just call me self-righteous, and I started building a wall around myself, and I really became an expert in defending myself. So you've got more and more layers of fortress, really, less and less self-connection going on.
Yeah, totally get it. Yeah, it does sound,
Yeah.
it sounds lonely. Yeah, and I get it. It's like death by a thousand cuts. There wasn't one big point of contention, like you want to raise the boys this way and he wants to raise them that way, or there's just not one thing. There's a million little things going by and kind of being sucked up and causing a really a fortress of hurt and defensiveness. So there's this distance, and he's never apologizing first, and that is always annoying.
Yeah. And I just started to sort of manage this. So every time he tried to talk about something, if it had, because I wanted positivity, I wanted peace, I wanted calm, I wanted a good connection. So if he had a hint of negativity in what he said or expressed a point of view different to mine, I sort of felt compelled to steer the narrative in a positive direction, because I was an editor in my profession, and I edited him ruthlessly. I wouldn't let him finish his point, and it was vital I made it all better with my own words. And I sort of think of it like, basically, I shrink wrapped him. Yeah.
Great metaphor. I can totally picture it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he began to tell me that there was no point in him speaking. He was just going, and he was just going to shut up and go away. And I'd tell him not to be stupid. Of course he should speak. And I was silently really horrified by all of this. And I sort of used to say to my husband in an edgy voice, we're not investing in our relationship. We really need to invest in it. This is what we need to do. But that made no difference at all. So I had this kind of weird life in two directions. I had this confidence. I was confident in my parenting skills, and I had lots of good friends, and I felt able to do my work. But I had got to the stage where I had no confidence in myself as a wife in our marriage. I really became a shadow of my former self. I kept on giving up things I enjoyed, like singing or knitting or going out to see friends. I thought that would give me more time to connect with my husband and would help sort things out, but it didn't. He didn't want to connect with me anyway. So I shrink wrapped him, and actually I shrink wrapped myself as well.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. But my work life was on the up. And, I moved into web development, and I did these courses. I got clients, and my husband was building an online business, and he asked if I could develop his site for him, which started simple and got really complex over time. And so as all these other parts of our beautiful connection fell away, the only thing that was working apart from raising our kids was me doing tech for my husband's business. And I was really producing the goods for him. And my resentment grew alongside my confidence, really grew tall and thick. I hated the weekly management meetings he asked for. I hated the soulless coding I was doing. I hated that he was pleased with my work. It seemed this was the only thing he was pleased with about me. And I was so sad, I would cry in my management meetings with him, not knowing why. And I really wasn't in the habit of crying, as you know. So it was really difficult for him to see me upset. He couldn't understand it. To him, this was just a management meeting, just me and him. Why was I getting so worked up? But it was really symbolic of all that was going wrong in my marriage, of the very little that was left. And I felt ashamed and exhausted, and I wasn't interested in being his co-worker. I just wanted to have my lovely connected marriage back. Yeah.
Yeah. So why were you crying in those meetings?
I think because the coding technical stuff was working, and that was successful, and it was causing me real grief because there was no connection of any other sort. There was just this work I was doing that was succeeding, but the rest, anything else, it was just weird. I know it's weird that I was crying about it, but I just found that was the only thing that worked, and I wanted the rest of it to work. Maybe I was just grieving for what wasn't there anymore, which was symbolized by this work I was doing. So it was really
Now I get
hard,
it.
and yeah.
Now I get it. It was the contrast. It was the fact that you're sitting across from this man that you loved and felt so connected to in the beginning, and having this interaction that wasn't at all the interaction you wanted to be having. And that contrast felt painful. Yeah, I don't think it's weird at all. I get it. I get it now. Yeah, so vulnerable, so tender.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think I was mourning the loss of what I had, and trying harder and harder to get this sort of elusive missing relationship back. But I completely failed to make it better. And I wore myself out with trying, actually, and I didn't know what to do. And I was very depleted and in despair. And I think I would at this point call myself a depletaholic, because that's what I was.
Like,
Yeah.
use up every last bit of energy and then be depleted.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, yeah. And we're very private about our relationship. So there was no way we were going to go to any external sources for help other than books. And it was only me that read relationship books anyway. I read about marriage, children, good wife stuff, how he could be a good husband. But none of it was something he was going to take on. In fact, I bought the whole series of the 5 love languages books, and then I proceeded to read the 5 love languages for men. Not that that's anything to do with me, but I read it anyway to understand how he should be responding. And so I read it on his behalf and nodded to myself solemnly about it. And I tried to enthuse about it to him, but he wasn't interested.
I love the part where you're nodding to yourself solemnly, like, yes, that is how you should respond.
Yes.
So, and did this
Yeah.
help? The 5 love languages
No.
series, entire series, both sides? No.
No. I was reading everybody's book. The one for teenagers, I read that as well. My kids didn't, I just read all of it, and it didn't help at all. It was just me nodding solemnly in isolation about it all, but it didn't make any difference at all.
Some validation,
No,
but no
yeah.
transformation, it sounds like.
No, but more than that, really, it's just the way we now were really was affecting our kids. And I noticed particularly my husband and youngest teenage son were prone to arguments. So I really inserted myself between them. And at one point it became so extreme that I began relaying messages back and forth between them. I was terrified in case they blew up at each other. So I would sit in my office and listen to all my son's complaints about his father and his insistence that he wouldn't be speaking to his dad for several days. And then I would go and sit in my husband's office and gently let him know how he should repair his relationship with his son. And I offered to relay messages back to our son, because I'd be softer at telling him, and so we'd be able to keep the peace. And so I didn't allow them any space for their own father-son relationship, the whole fear-based thing going on here. So I basically shrink-wrapped my son as well. There's a lot of shrink-wrapping going on here.
How did your husband, how did he respond to you being the mediator?
He's such a wise man. And he was very sad. He was just so sad about how he couldn't connect with his son. And and so he wasn't, it was just bewildering him and confusing him. And so that was his response, because he adores his children. But I just wasn't letting that relationship happen at the time. So, yeah. And it just got overcast and heavy, the whole thing. And finally, my husband wearily told me that I was irritated with him all the time. And he said that I was reverting to my default independent self and that I didn't want to be married anymore. And it really, really shocked me, given how hard I was trying to bolster our marriage. And it was really achingly sad as well, because I still really believed in our marriage. But I just couldn't reach for it. I couldn't grasp it or hold on to what we'd had in the beginning. It was just slipping through my fingers, and I just was powerless to get anything back. I just couldn't do it. Yeah.
It sounds sad. Sounds hard.
Yeah. It was hard, and I was lonely and I was struggling, but I couldn't express what I was going through because I didn't really even understand it at the time. And the only time I showed any emotion really in our marriage was when I was so desperate to be happier that I cried to him that he was the only one who could make me happy. But I was just heartbroken and just so stuck. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it sounds heartbreaking. Awful. So was there a moment when you said to yourself, we can't go on like this?
I said that to myself. Yeah, I said that to myself. I had been I'd been grasping, trying to get it back, and I'd been mourning what was lost. It was all slipping through my fingers, and I thought, this is no good. This is no good at all. I kept on trying to be bright and light and going, I'm back, I'm back to my normal self. But it didn't last. I just went back to, I didn't recognize it in myself at the time, but I know I went back to being miserable quite a lot of the time in my home husband-wife environment. I must have been, because my husband commented on it, and he's a man of few and well-chosen words. So if he says something like that, you can really believe it. But I didn't want to believe it, nor did I want to hear it. So it wasn't even a thing of, there's now a disaster, a complete accident, a terrible thing has happened. It's just, this is a really horrible place to be. And that's, so I just thought, this is, I don't know, what do I do with this? This is so sad. It's nothing to do with how we were at the beginning, and it's nothing to do with what I love a marriage to be. It's just a state of affairs that is.
You knew the difference because you'd had this sweet connection and wonderful feeling of being in love in the beginning. Yeah. And now it was gone, and there's no option to go to marriage counseling because you'd have to tell other people about your problems, and that's just not how you roll. Yeah. And you'd read books, and you'd tried talking to him, of course, and told him you needed to invest. We need to invest in our marriage. And did you at some point think, well, it must be him. It must be him. I mean, he's just too distant. He doesn't appreciate me. Anything like that?
So things like that were going on in my head, but I was very, very silent about any of it. So these would just be things that would be going on in my head. Really, the only words that were happening were from my husband to me. But I certainly was thinking, why is he responding to me like this? Why is he got this pursed lips all the time? Why is he rushing off to his office and spending 1 trillion hours in there? Why is he always so uptight with me? So I was asking those why questions in my head, but I wasn't going to, the idea of just coming out and saying you're doing this, that, and the other just wasn't the way I rolled. It, for me, everything was internalized. Very much, I've got to fix this. This is, I'm a person. I'm a strong human being. I really must do my best to fix this. And I don't understand why. I think it's unfair. It's not. It can't all just be me, but I'm very accountable. And if I can fix it, I really want to fix it. It's kind of that, really. Yeah.
Yeah, you are extraordinarily accountable. So did you ever think, well, maybe we'll get divorced, or did you ever
No,
fantasize?
no, I really didn't, because I waited a long time to marry my husband. As I say, I wasn't in the marriage market in my 20s. I was really happy being my own independent self. So when I fell in love with my husband, who I'd known for years from university, I knew he was just absolutely the man for me. And I always wanted that marriage forever. It was in a very, very impoverished state now, but there wasn't going to be any divorce. That wouldn't be in
You never
the thing
lost
I'd want
sight
to do.
that you
Yeah.
still wanted this marriage. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So what happened?
Yeah. So how on earth did something else happen? So in September 2020, my friend mentioned she was reading this book for women who are struggling in their marriages. And she said she thought I might be interested in it. And it was called The Surrendered Wife.
The
And I
surrendered
realized,
wife.
well, The
Ah,
Surrendered Wife. No, I know. Yep. But I realized that I'd heard you talking about it on the BBC way back in 2001 when it first came out. You must have done a book tour. It must have included the BBC, because I really remember it, I'm sure. And I remember thinking at the time that it sounded really intriguing. But what on earth was that title all about? I remember thinking that at the time. And then I had
yeah.
a small baby. I got distracted by the baby and I forgot all about it. But I just was immediately, when she mentioned this book, I thought, oh, yeah, I remember, which is extraordinary. But there we are. So this time I actually read the book. And my first response was, wait a minute, what's this? A bunch of skills to practice just for women, things we can do to make things better in a marriage without our husband's conscious effort. Really? Tell me more. And so a couple of friends and I just started DIY practicing the skills, because actually we all thought, wow, we really thought, wow. And not being a one to do anything by halves, I wanted to know everything about you. So where's your website? What else have you written? What else can I listen to? So
Wow.
I found the podcasts and I listened to them all more than once. I adored the stories, the challenges, the hopes, the transformations with so many different women. And then I thought, okay, what other books? The Empowered Wife. Great title. What a book. And what I loved about it was that I just got immediately that the skills were for me, and it didn't rely on me getting my husband to participate. In fact, it was just fine if he knew nothing about it and I could just get on with experimenting with the skills. I really loved that. That suited me fine.
Awesome. Awesome. I mean, it takes something to open a book called The Surrendered Wife. So I love that. So what did you start doing differently than you had been doing before? What experiments did you start with?
Yeah. So I through reading it, I realized I knew absolutely nothing about how to succeed in my marriage. First of all, I just understood that I had no understanding of the skills, no understanding of self-care. Didn't know what respect looked like in my husband, even though I thought I was deeply respectful, and I knew I was controlling because we'd cackled about it, but I didn't have any idea that relinquishing control was even a possibility. I had no idea. And I thought about gratitude from time to time, but I didn't really intentionally focus on abundant out loud thanks, and I received graciously. No, I didn't. I was rubbish at receiving. I was always a rubbish receiver. And as for vulnerability, no way you're having a laugh if you think I'm going anywhere near being vulnerable. It's far too weak and scary. So that was my first response to these skills, at the same time as being intrigued by them. So yeah, so you asked me how did I start? What did I experiment with? And the first skill I tried was duct tape. And
Oh,
usually I know it's weird, but that was the first one I did. Usually by now, my husband and I had nothing much to say to each other. But for some strange reason, he started talking about something after our evening meal. And instead of editing his speech to make his point of view align better with my own, I just sat and listened. And the first time I did this, I kid you not, he talked for an hour straight. So I duct taped the next night, And the same thing happened, and again, night after night. And wow, he really had stuff to say. I just wasn't listening. So I started there, and it was an extraordinary straight away difference, which I was just gobsmacked about, really. So then I thought, yeah, well, that worked. So I must keep going and experimenting. I'm an experimenter, and I wanted to keep going. So I couldn't remember having expressed any desires in my marriage at all for the past 30 years. It was all about making sure everyone else's needs were met. So I started really small. I don't want to do something too mad and it not work. So I started really small. I would love a hook on my office door. And he got one of our sons to fix it immediately. So I thought, okay, there we go. So that's working too. Tick. So, but then the big one was self-care, because I was convinced self-care wasn't for me. And it was a waste of effort, and I could do perfectly well without it. And I even argued with other people about its irrelevance and my dislike of the very words self-care. I had a big argument about that. And so it took me a long time to accept how foundational it is. But I realized that I really was a depletaholic, and it had to change. So I did make a self-care list eventually, and I did weave them into my day. So I started, I had all these big and small self-cares that I would do. I can let you know what I had there originally, if you like.
Yeah. What was your, what was it about self-care? You didn't even like the word self or care, sounds like. So what was it about that?
It really seemed like a waste of time. It really seemed, there was so much to do. There were so many things, in the schedule, that there was just I didn't like time wasters. So I didn't want a time waster in myself. And the idea of sort of this introversion, introspection, I had no idea what self-care was at all. The words of it just seemed very selfish, indulgent, and a person who's very busy really doesn't have time for that. And, self-care just sounds a bit I did find it just a bit icky sounding. I don't know if it's me being British or whatever, but I just have to be honest, that's how it was to start with. So it was my lack of understanding of it. It really was. Yeah.
Well, I love hearing it. You're not the only one, of course, that felt that way about self-care. I think it's really common, actually. And it sounds like it felt at odds with being efficient and productive. Yeah. So what kinds of things did you start doing for self-care?
Yeah. So there would be the bigger things like going for a sail, adorable, or just even sitting on our boat, listening to the water lap against the hull. I go for a walk and a jog every morning and listen to a podcast. That's always in there. And there are they're really teeny ones, like eating a row, very specific, of dark fruit and nut chocolate, and really savoring each square. So no nuts in this bite, but plenty of juicy raisins, just really, really enjoying it. Yeah. And I see girlfriends more. I watch rom-coms by myself because I'm in a male house of testosterone with a husband and 3 men. So I do the rom-coms on my own, and I'll early morning iron and watch a happy-go-lucky movie at the same time. So I sometimes combo stuff to make it fun. And I've also made this list on my phone called Women with Wonderful Laughs. So it includes famous women and women on the radio with tinkling giggles or great guffaws. It's just people, I remember them and I remember their laugh. And I've made this list of them, and it just makes me smile thinking about them. So it's lovely. You can read it, and then I remember what their laughs like. And I even have a couple of coaches a coach or two on my list, because some of the lovely coaches have beautiful laughs. So I love that, because that's just a really crazy little self-care, which is great. It's there on my list for me. Yeah.
I absolutely love this list of women with guffaws and tinkling laughs and that make you happy. Fantastic. That's the first I've ever heard that one. And I think I'm going to steal it. It's fantastic.
Yeah. So self-care is always baked in now, at least 3 a day without fail, always.
Without fail.
And I think I can safely say I'm a recovering depletaholic now. I can safely say that.
So a lot less depletion on your part.
Yeah. And self-care is so fundamental in that being possible. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I've got, other skills. I tried a gratitude list for all my husband is and does for us, and a list for my boys, and spread that net wide. And yeah, a desires list, and tiny weeny things. I always seem to start very small. Yeah, I'd love a bit of time agenda free. I'd love to get some clear nail polish. I'd love a pair of espadrilles, little things like that. But the
Yeah.
desire, I had an extraordinary desire that thudded into me. If you'd like to hear about that.
Of course I would.
Thank you. Yeah. And so one of your podcasts a little while ago, and I heard that you could go and listen to this webinar all about becoming a Laura Doyle coach. So I watched it, and I just had this enormous desire that went thudding into my heart. I just immediately really, really wanted to become a Laura Doyle relationship coach. I really wanted to help other women. It was an amazing, powerful, and persistent desire. And then I thought, how on earth will I be able to do coach certifications? It's a serious financial commitment, and our finances are joint. And my husband knew nothing about all of this, and I wanted to keep it that way. But he had to know my desire because our finances are joint. So I had no chance of training without him being involved. So I had a call with Coach Stephanie, and she invited me to express my pure desire to my husband, which I found a very scary thing to do, but I did do it. And he didn't know what on earth I was talking about. I'd never expressed a desire in this way before, and certainly not for something this major. I was web developing his business. This was a 180-degree shift of anything that I'd ever wanted to do. And to his great credit, my husband took me seriously, and he looked at your website, and then he looked up other training possibilities on my behalf. He looked up cheaper training possibilities and sent me links. But of course, that wasn't the point. I wasn't interested in looking at anything else. I'd already seen such positive changes in my marriage. I wanted to go deeper with his coaching and help other women who felt the same. But I was really convinced I would never be able to do this, and I really, really wanted to do it. And I wasn't very skilled about how on earth I was going to get there to start with. So I cried on with sadness on one occasion because I was so frustrated and didn't know how I was ever going to make this work. It seemed impossibly out of reach. And I was just keeping this to myself, just walking across the garden, gently weeping. And my husband called out, "Sort your own life out before you tell other women how to live theirs." Which was a real ouch. Real ouch. Yeah. So I think I went to my office and then listened to an hour and 45 minutes of jazz funk tracks to try and get myself back on track at that point. It was very, very, very tough for me because I was very, very far away, all of this. And so, and I tried other tactics. So I tried to persuade sweetly. I wrote a very poor and quite honestly desperate sounding version of my story and why I wanted to become a coach. And my husband was gracious enough to agree to hear me out in my office. And as I was pouring out my heart to him, he got down on the floor and furiously did press ups because it was just far too emotional for him to sit quietly and listen to me. And it fell on deaf ears anyway. So that was another tactic going on. I tried. You know me, I'm a trier.
Yeah, that's right. Very determined.
Yeah, very determined. So, but actually what happened over time, I realized that I couldn't strategize or manipulate my way into making this happen. I just couldn't do it. And I had no expectations, and I realized I had to relinquish control of the timeline. And I still held on to my vision to become a coach and help other women. And I knew that all I really had to work with was myself and my practice of the skills. So in the end, I just carried on DIY practicing them with my two friends, because that was all I had actually in the end. No manipulation. Can't do it. Just does not work. So I just practiced them, and things shifted. So my husband was at first suspicious of the way I was showing up, but I was consistent. So then he began to relax, and we began to laugh together more, and I practiced self-care so my depletion reduced. And although I wanted to, I didn't bring my desire up again and again. I duct tape. But from time to time, some enthusiasm about it would burst out of me, but it was positive now, not desperate.
And
And
natural.
slowly, yeah,
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's genuine and natural, and not this kind of, oh, I've got to desperately do this. I have to do this. I have to do this. So it was a very different energy. And slowly and steadily, he began to see my desire for what it was, a true desire without expectations and not diminishing either. And he was amazing because he took this seriously. So he compiled a list of questions for Coach Stephanie, a long list. I emailed her and she tried her best to answer them. He wanted to know, I think his heart message was he wanted to know this was a proper course, that, this is a proper setup, which is lovely. And by this time, I was also listening to Master Coach Kathy Murray's podcast series about being a successful relationship coach. And I felt a complete fraud listening to this because this was aimed at coaches and I wasn't a coach and I wasn't anywhere near becoming a coach. So I felt really sneaky listening to it, but I loved listening to it and I did it anyway. And then she happened to say on one of her podcasts, she was talking about the finances around being a coach. And at the end, she said, get in touch with me if you have any questions on this topic. So, and my husband had been busy wondering about the business model for this coaching lark. So never having spoken to Coach Kathy in my life, I boldly said to my husband, the top coach who set all this up, she's inviting people to get in touch about the finances. Shall I get in touch with her? Do you want to have a chat? So I did get in touch with her. I hadn't spoken to her at all before. And I was so thrilled that the founder of Coach Certification agreed to speak to my husband, and I was there in the background. He was only the second husband she'd ever spoken to in this way. And she was gracious and answered all his questions, many, many questions, including the spreadsheet questions. And more than 2 years after expressing my original desire to my husband, I joined Coach Certification. Yay!
Yay!
Yeah. I was just, what a day. Yeah, what a day.
God, love it. So at no point, he wasn't, I guess in my mind, I'm wanting him to realize he's getting an hour's worth of talking after the evening meal and you're a better listener and you're happier and saying of course, go take the coach, the coach certification because there's such a transformation in our marriage. But he wasn't saying that.
No, he wasn't saying that. And I think part of that was because I was DIY doing it. I was practicing it with a couple of friends. None of us knew anything more than the book. So I saw amazing starter stuff going on, things that were changing at a fundamental first principle level. But in order to really, really, really see a lasting and deep and extraordinary transformation, I really, really needed the coach certification because there is nothing like it. It is going from this DIY thing. You've got this class of 12 from around the world. You've got experienced senior coaches teaching you. You've got partner coaching with classmates. You're immersed in the community and loads of private coaching, which is tailored completely to me and what I need to focus on. And it's just an extraordinary privilege and such a level. So I can really, really dive deep into the skills. And it made an extraordinary step change of a difference when I did. It made an enormous amount of difference.
I love this. I love this story. I love how you were so patient and just honored the desire, even though it looked like it was going to be hopeless at different times in this story. But it wasn't at all. So now you're in coach certification and there's a new level of you practicing the skills. How did he respond to that? What changed at your house and how did he respond to that?
Yeah. So I was able to go much further in my practice of the skills. So I could show up so much better, sort of light and filled up and smiling with all my self-care. And, we were really being taught about, and held accountable for doing it and things like this, and all of us supporting each other. And it really magnetized my husband to me again and really increased the emotional safety. That emotional safety had gone completely and it just came right back. And the suffocating shrink wrap came off from everybody. Thank heavens everybody could breathe, and there's space for all relationships to flourish, and particularly me and my husband's. And I'm able to even to let him know if I'm super tired, I'm not at my best, and I can leave and sit in my chair in my office, And there's all sorts of things that I do. I shut my laptop at lunchtime, I move away from the laptop and go and do something else. I've tried all sorts of things, further things like Laura Doyle apologies, and it was like having lights, camera, action the first time I did that, really quite intense. But I really understand that now, and you get it, and you think, oh no, I need to clean this up. You just go, you do it, and his response is always, no, that's absolutely fine, no thanks. It just completely softens the whole thing, and I relinquish control properly. I remove myself from being permanently lodged between my husband and my youngest son. So that worked. And we learn about things like bait, and, I recognize some of my husband's responses as bait. So I attempt to avoid that, just simply listening, bearing witness, or leaving if I need to. One thing it took me a long time was ouch, because it took me, I was so used to defending myself and having this massive wall up. But I'm pretty good at that now. But it took a long time. It was always in the rearview mirror. I was thinking, I could have said ouch. But I love whatever you think. I say it all the time. I absolutely love it, because it gives me such permission not to agree or disagree with my husband's view, but simply to hear him, and anybody else as well. But it's just wonderful. And the other thing that really changed, because we were asked, what was the skill we want to work on? What's the first skill we want to work on? And vulnerability was the one I admitted to. And what I found also is that I cry now, not manipulative, get my own way tears, but I actually allow myself to ask myself, how do I feel and what do I want? And if I was sad, I'd feel it for as long as I needed to feel it. So I really have been able to work on my vulnerability, and it's wonderful to be in touch with that. I just, as you could tell from my past, I really wasn't in touch with that at all. And what I tried, it seemed to work, and I really started to notice it working, and wonderful things happening from my husband as a result. I've got lots of examples of amazing things that happened as a result of these deeper
I'd
practices.
love to hear. Tell me.
So from the little things, one time I went out, my husband rushed to pack and run the dishwasher before I got back, and he hurried away so I wouldn't notice he'd done it. So it's very sweet. And then I said that he didn't apologize even once a decade, but he apologizes to me regularly for the things that are on his mind now. And he never did that in the bad old days. And his relationship with his sons is fabulous, particularly his relationship with our youngest. It's just completely transformed, with me being right out of the way. And it just really fills me with pride and pleasure to see it. It's wonderful. And,
so he did the dishes and he didn't want you to know? He snuck them in?
Yeah, the dishwasher. Yeah. It's like I went out and suddenly I came back with, oh, okay, those dishes from the side, which I don't rush to do them, but okay, that dishwasher's been run. Okay, well, the only person who's going to be doing that is my husband, so it must be him. But it's all right, I think I did I went and said, thank you so much. I really appreciate you running the dishwasher, and kind of left it at that. And I think he had a sort of slightly smirk on his face,
Oh my gosh. So sly. So cute. You guys are so cute.
Yeah.
And his relationship with your youngest, you're saying is much better. So you used to worry there were going to be blow-ups between them.
Yeah.
And now?
So and when I did get out of the way, I had to relinquish control of all of that. And to start with, it was really uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable for me, and it was uncomfortable for my son, and probably uncomfortable for my husband as well, because my son was used to, for instance, pocket money and all that stuff. I was dealing with all of that. So he was used to coming to me and talking about those financial things. And so I thought, right, I'm not doing that anymore. So I'd say, no, you need to go and talk to your dad about that. And he was cross about it, my son. He didn't like it, but I was really, really consistent about that. And the other thing I did was I would big up my husband. I'd say, your dad's really, really good with finances. That'll be something you really want to take to him. And it's not because I can't talk about finances, but it's because I've found, particularly for young men growing into, mature men, it's wonderful if their father can deal with those kind of career financial things, it's wonderful just to let them have that manly conversation and be completely relaxed about the fact that I don't need to get involved. So in the end, it got to the point where he did start going to his father, and they didn't have blow-ups. They had the one or two, but they really reduced. And now it's got to the point where he will just automatically go to his dad, and they'll chat about this, that, and the other. They'll chat about politics. They'll, he'll go into, oh yeah, I must tell dad about this, and they go and do it, and I don't need to be involved. And if I need to know something, they'll tell me. Otherwise, I just don't need to be involved. And so I love it. The peace is there, and I'm just so proud of them. And that it's just an expansive and great relationship they have. So it's wonderful. Yeah.
Wow, Roz, I love this. It sounds like there's relief in it for you, but also I just hear like a beautiful pride in your husband and your sons, and the way he's helping them along and developing them, sharing his wisdom. You talked about what a wise man he is. And so something beautiful has really sprung from your decision to change the way you are showing up in those relationships. So inspiring.
Thank you. And I mean, it's also really changed how my son relates to me as well, which is another bonus, because before, if I were having this financial, no, you can't have his pocket money, no, you can't this, that, and the other, just really, really transactional, functional, not very warm. But, now he really is with me as a son with his mum. So, for instance, I got some really sad news recently, and just afterwards I was driving my younger son somewhere, and without a word, he put on this gentle, slightly twinkly, lift my spirits playlist just for me, not a word, because he knew I was sad, and he just put a hand on my shoulder. And so he was so caring. And then on the funny side, I was upset about it. Seemed to be upset about a lot of things, but then that's fine because I'm free to cry now, so that's good, and I'm happy with my tears. But I was upset about something else, and I was crying, and my husband was commiserating with me. My teenager came in, and he said, "What's happening?" And are you all right? And I began to reply saying, "Look, don't worry, it's about something else." I didn't want him to get concerned. And no, my teenager said, "No, Dad, are you all right? It's Dad I need to support when you're miserable, Mum." And I was a bit startled by this. And my teenager sauntered out, and as he left the room, he called over his shoulder, "Love you, Mum," and laughed. So it's just a beautiful, slightly banterish, but heart message, playful, looking after my dad, ho, ho. It's just adorable. Love it.
Wow. I love it too. Congratulations. It sounds like a wonderful, warm family life that you're enjoying now. And I give you all the credit creating this.
Thank you. I've got this lovely engagement ring story if you want to hear it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we've been married for over 30 years, and I adore my engagement ring, and it's got 2 stones in it, red and green, facing in opposite directions, symbolizing port and starboard, this whole sailing theme. And my ring's been round the world with me, and it's been on my finger through all our marriage until it became so worn that the back of the band had a razor-sharp edge which sliced into my finger, so I could no longer wear it. So my husband said, "Let's go to the jeweler and get it repaired and build up the thin bit." And I received that graciously. So we went to the jeweler, and they said, "Really sorry, but we can't mend this. It's too far gone. There isn't enough metal to build on. You're going to have to replace it. We can do you a replica, but it'll be brand new with an entirely different ballpark cost." But I realized that cost wasn't the issue. I really wanted to wear my original engagement ring. So this ring's been diving off the Red Sea and in Fiji, and it's held all my babies when they were small. It's clapped at concerts, and it's hugged the distress, and it nestles beautifully with my wedding ring. So I was really sad, and I told my husband I just don't want to talk about it. I just couldn't face it. I was just really upset, and I put the ring away, and I continued to just wear my wedding ring. And I really wanted to wear my engagement ring again. So I tried putting tape on my finger to protect it, but that didn't work. So months later, I obviously wasn't quite getting over this. I was sadly saying to my husband that I really missed wearing my engagement ring, but it was hopeless because it was so sharp and thin. So we were watching TV that evening, and he asked to look at my ring. And he went out to his workshop and he brought back a pile of tools. And I'm just sitting there watching TV. And then he proceeds to sand down the ring, get out his soldering iron and solder on a blob of metal, smooth it out and present it to me. And it was a perfect fix for me and a perfect fit on my finger. And the ring's back on my finger. And you can't see the solder. It looks great and it feels great. And he witnesses my complete joy of being able to wear my original engagement ring again. And I've thanked him so many times for being my hero. It just makes me so happy.
Oh my gosh, it's so romantic, Rose. That's amazing. Yeah. Oh, so sweet. He heard your desire and he found it sounded impossible, but he found a way to fix it. Beautiful story. Wow.
Thank you.
Wow. So what is your marriage like now?
So I can safely say the peace, playfulness and passion, as you put it, are back and we're so connected. And my husband has always wanted to be close to me and now he is and we revel in it. And my energy is much lighter and we have fun again. I love putting my feet on his and dancing around the kitchen. We have such emotional safety and my husband mirrors so many of the good things I've learnt. No more pursed lips, soft kissable lips. I smile at him and he smiles back. So he comes into my office and sits in the tub chair for a random chat. He talks big and he talks small and I'm happy to hear him. I willingly receive his affection, gifts and help. He apologises to me out of the blue for all sorts of things and I say thank you. That means a lot to me. And I let him be a dad to his sons. As I said, I'd choose not to get involved in the career and finance chats he has with them. I just concentrate on being a huggy mum who discusses film, music, family holidays and favourite meals. And he asks me how I am and he looks into my eyes and he holds my face and kisses me. And we have a good old smooch in the kitchen just as my teenager turns up and then turns tail and runs away in disgust and my husband and I laugh. And we'll have a, spontaneous day out on the coast, dream building and hunting down our next adventure boat. And in terms of spreadsheets, I go into him and flirt around his spreadsheets. So I may comment on how colourful they are or why that one is monochrome and sad looking. And one time I went in and I said, spreadsheets, bedsheets, spreadsheets, bedsheets. And then I giggled and left the room. And then the spreadsheets were the only lonely ones that night.
Oh, the bedsheets got all the action. I love it. So just flirting, just playful. It's just fun.
Yeah. Fantastic. And I mean, our marriage isn't perfect. And sometimes I overdo it and I get depleted. And I feel myself showing up exhausted and maybe a barbed comment is on its way out of my mouth. But more often than not, I excuse myself and leave the room. And I go to my little tub chair. It's very useful, my little tub chair in my office. And I do a word puzzle or have 40 winks or listen to my favourite jazz funk tracks. And I've just got one little thing that happened just a couple of days ago. We were coming back late from a wedding and we were on the train out of London and it was me and my husband and my younger two sons. And we were the only ones in the carriage. It really was quite late. So my youngest was playing this retro track on his phone. And him and his brother started singing harmonies to the track at the top of their voices. And then my youngest said, "Come on, Mum, join in." And I love singing harmonies. So I joined in. So this 3-part harmony in this retro track. And then my husband got involved and called out his own suggestions for tracks. And so then they were playing these other tracks and we were doing all these harmonies. And my husband and I just look at each other and beaming. And then my youngest called out, "It's train pool karaoke." And it was just amazing. And it was just after a tiring wedding, I just felt so energized, so filled up. I mean, it wasn't exactly self-care. It was kind of family care, but it was just really beautiful. And I just thought, wow, thank you for all of this, because this is such a difference. Such a difference.
So joyful. It sounds wonderful. I love it. I love it, Ross. Wow. Amazing. Well, what a transformation this is. It's incredible. Has your husband ever commented on the big investment you made in relationship coach certification?
No, he hasn't. He hasn't commented on it. He, once he'd made his decision that it was, once he'd agreed that I was doing it, then he was fully signed up to me doing it. And I In fact, we even now have conversations about, coaching generally and all of this. And, he's just really, really fascinated and interested in what I'm doing. He's always looking out for me in a business sense. And he really believes in me building a coaching practice, which are what I'm, doing and wanting to do. So he is my cheerleader. And I do express my gratitude. I'm so grateful. It's so different from that whole slightly scared my desire is right at the beginning to where we are now. He really does cheer me on. So it's wonderful. Yeah.
Oh, love that. I love that. Well, this is an incredible accomplishment, to take a marriage that felt distant and cold and lonely and just so heartbreaking, really, and making it to where you're having, train pool karaoke with the family and feeling like he's your cheerleader and he's fixed that engagement ring that you held all your babies with. So what is your tip for someone who is where you were and feeling so hopeless? And she's read all the books and read all the love languages for men books and tried everything and has told him he needs to, we need to invest in our relationship, whatever, and has gotten nowhere. And she wants what you have now. What's your tip for her? What should she do?
Yeah, well, I'd say to her, I relate to your struggle so much, and I see you want to have a thriving, beautiful relationship, and it's more of a chat rather than tips in a way. I know you're determined to make things better, and I really admire that in you. And I would say, correct me if I'm wrong, but I suspect that what you've already tried hasn't made that much difference. And then I'd say, I want you to know that what Laura Doyle has written and podcasted and the community she's created have made a profound difference to my marriage and my family and my relationships. And I want you to know that you too can read The Empowered Wife and try the 6 intimacy skills. They're so accessible, and you can experiment with them straight away as I did. You will see a difference. Listen to the podcast, hear amazing stories from women who all started with struggle and ended with inspirational transformation. And if you can, find your Laura Doyle tribe, because the love, support and accountability you'll get there is unparalleled. Maybe start small in her free Adored Wife program, or try the Ridiculously Happy Wives community, or dive right into coach certification as I did. Whatever your next step, I invite you to take it. I believe in you. I believe you can do it. You really can.
It's beautiful. I love it. So coach-like. So you didn't tell her what to do.
Sorry about that.
No, it was fantastic. Very moving. Very moving. And what would you tell Ross if you could go back in time and tell her what you know now?
Ah, dear, oh dear. Well, first of all, I'd definitely be super busy, so I'd have to catch my own attention and flag myself down so that I'd have time to listen to myself. So there'd be that to start with. Yeah, then I would say to myself, I can see how much this marriage and your family means to you. I can see how hard you're working to restore what you once had, because I'd know myself, wouldn't I? I know how accountable you are. I can see how ashamed you are that you can't seem to fix it or make it better. I know you've read so much, absorbed so much, tried so much, and you're so frustrated and heartbroken that it's not working. Then I would give myself a big hug. Then I would say, please believe me, there is an answer. There is something you can do which really works and can bring your marriage back to somewhere even better than it was at the start. And it starts with you, just you. Read Laura's books, listen to the podcast, let all of that sink in. Then get involved in the Laura Doyle community. Consider diving right into becoming a coach, because once you get these skills and you're practicing them, I know you're going to want to help as many women as you can.
Oh, beautiful. Fantastic answers. So wise. Yeah, so well said. It's very moving. Well, and how has this affected your sons that you've done all this?
Yeah, well, the landscape of the home is it's peaceful and playful. It's the banter of the boys is the banter of the boys, which I just watch from the sidelines. They have their own way of doing stuff, and I don't need to force myself to be a full part of that or anything. This tub chair in my room I keep on talking about, they all come in from time to time. So my eldest, who's backwards and forwards, sometimes he'll come in and he'll just sit. Sometimes he won't say anything, he'll just sit there. My youngest is in all the time saying, let me show you this, Mum, let me show you this, etc. And my middle son will come in, very tall middle son, doesn't often sit down, but he'll stand up and we'll have a little bit of a chin mic. So there's a wonderful connection for them. They're sort of post-university, some of them, and and all of that stuff. So there's toing and froing. It's a busy house, in and out, but it's a very joyful house and really, really, really tiny amount of conflict. So we're really privileged. My husband and I say we're so lucky. We've got lucky, but we've got our kids here, and they really enjoy being here. And so we're very grateful for that. So yeah, so it's a great household, and we're enjoying that. We're enjoying the fruits of all this. Yeah. Mm.
Oh, Roz, congratulations. I want to present you with my Best Wife Award, which you richly deserve. You have done a phenomenal job of, becoming vulnerable, listening well, creating emotional safety for all the men in your life, your husband and those 3 sons, and creating such a joyful family life. And I can't think of anything I admire more. And you've been so courageous. I just want to congratulate you.
Thank you so much. It's an absolute delight to see that and a wonder to receive it. I feel so honoured. I really do. Thank you. I want to pull it out from you. Thank you.
There you go. It's on your side now. Yeah. Yeah. Isn't it something? I just love that we could, like you said at the beginning, it's quite an honor to be here. And like and I said, it sounds like a dream come true. And it is. It's a moment to celebrate, to take a victory lap, and to look at all the tears and the sweat and the focus and the courage and the commitment and the determination, and how well that's paid off, how worthwhile it's all been. And so it's just my joy to get to acknowledge you for that and celebrate you.
Thank you. And I'm so grateful to you. I'm just so amazed by what these skills can do. And just for you, just getting them down, writing that original book and all that's developed from there. And I'm just thank you so much, because it's been extraordinary in my life, and I'm extremely grateful to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ross. I'm so glad we found each other and we get to be on this journey together. And I just look forward to spending the rest of our lives together, lifting each other up and lifting up the world.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you for the inspiring story today. If you want all the tips, tricks, and traps about how to use a spouse-fulfilling prophecy in your situation, you can get that in my group coaching program. So for more on that, get my free Adored Wife Roadmap and the link below this video. Now, this takes some courage to do, but if you're feeling brave, you can do it tonight. So are you ready to try a spouse-fulfilling prophecy? Okay, then go, go, go. For more of the proven secrets on how to make your marriage playful and passionate without his conscious effort, check this out.